Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into today's video. My name's Jeremy Haynes. I help you hit $1 million months. If you're already a subscriber, it's always a pleasure to have you. Welcome back. If you're new here, again, all we do on this channel, talk about hitting $1 million months. Today, we're gonna be talking about how to generate 40 to 50 qualified sales calls per day that are also probable to close. We're gonna be going through some math with financial modeling in order to help you understand what it takes in spend, what your average KPIs throughout a call funnel need to be in order to hit these kinds of numbers with the 40 to 50 qualified calls per day, and what that turns into with average expenses taken against that gross revenue, what you end up walking away with, okay? We're also gonna be going through funnels, what strategies are most commonly being used to generate these 40 to 50 qualified calls per day. In addition to that, we're gonna be going through some ad strategies. This is a masterclass where I'm gonna be giving you a tremendous amount of information. I will, throughout the video, reference some key videos that are already on my channel that I think will give you a lot more in-depth explanation, so I don't have to keep you here for upwards of 3 to 4 hours in this specific video, and I can be concise and refer you to different information that you can consume in greater length. That way I can be more strategy oriented with you here today and keep it higher level. Again, we're gonna wrap it up with some sales advice for what your closers need to be doing to maximize show rates, what your marketers need to be doing to maximize show rates, and what your salespeople need to do to maximize their overall amount of people that they're closing and their cash collected. True masterclass of a video. Pleasure to have you here with us. Without further ado, let's dive right in. So for starters, when you look at 40 to 50 qualified sales calls per day, you gotta first ask yourself, like, what are you gonna be putting up in spend? First of all, you're gonna be averaging anywhere between 200,000 and likely 300,000, depending on what your cost per qualified call is, in ad spend for the month, okay? This is very important to note. You might, if you have an organic business, to be able to benefit and alleviate some of those 40 to 50 qualified calls coming in per day from just paid advertising sources. But this video assumes that you want to generate the full 40 to 50 qualified sales calls per day through your paid advertising efforts, okay? So again, paid advertising spend-wise, you're likely going to be upwards of $200,000 to $300,000 a month, okay? This is a starting point that I'd like for you to consider, okay? We need to have our quantity of calls based on math against that spend. If we take the middle number there of 250,000 and we plug it into a 1-call close and a 2-call close financial model, and we average a $200 cost per call, okay? Which is very regular. It's very common. Absolutely. You can get a less and you can get a lower cost per qualified call, but on average, especially when you're putting up like 200 to 300K in spend, you're probably gonna be somewhere in the range of like the $100 to $250 range. Sometimes upwards of that, depending on, again, what type of market you're targeting, how big the market is, etc. You look at the differences between a 1-call close and a 2-call close model. I tried to be very unbiased here and show math that reflects what a very well-performing 2-call close model can produce in statistics. And I also tried to be very conservative with my 1-call close model and demonstrate show rate and close rate statistics that will represent what you're likely going to experience out there, but from a more conservative perspective. I am generally highly biased towards 1-call close models. Reason being, every additional step that you add to a marketing or sales process typically erodes the overall quantity of people that make it out the other side, therefore eroding the amount that we gross on the other side and net on the other side, and therefore it affects our ROAS. In this case, again, tried to be conservative with the 1-call close, and I tried to be a little more like towards the overperforming side of a 2-call close. When we look at these models, and I just break them down for you and help you understand, this is a basic model that doesn't obviously factor in all of your expenses. It factors in some of your most common expenses you're gonna have with these. Every business is different. Let me explain. $250,000 in ad spend is represented in both the 1-call close and the 2-call close model. The 2-call close model is at the top, the 1-call close model is down here at the bottom. When you look at these, I put the same cost per call for both of $200. So us putting up the same amount of spend in both funnels and us having the same cost per call in both models equates to the same quantity of calls coming through in both models. In this case, $1,250. Allow me to explain something real quick. When you're going for 40 to 50 qualified calls per day, you ideally want to shoot slightly above it with the modeling math that you do. In this particular case, you have an average team, let's say, that works 5 days a week, okay? Therefore, your sales team's only taking calls 5 days out of the week. An average calendar month has 30 to 31 days. Assuming you exclude weekends, and it's just a regular month, you're gonna have about 20 days per month out of the 30 or 31 that your closers are actually gonna be taking calls. Simple enough. If we take $1,250, which is the quantity of calls that 250K in ad spend at a $200 cost per call would produce in either a 2-call close or a 1-call close model, and we divide that $1,250 by 20 calendar days in the month that your closers are actually gonna take calls, that comes out to a total call quantity per day. Total calls that are actually being booked in a day puts it at about 62.5. So you're booking 62.5 calls per day in this math, assuming your closers are only taking calls 5 days out of the week and excluding weekends. In this math, at a $200 cost per call, I'm factoring in that you might have 2 or 3 of your closers also working on a Saturday, taking some calls on those days, which would therefore lower the overall call count from 62.5 per day to somewhere in the high 50s, okay? Again, try to shoot above whatever the goal is in the financial modeling math. That way you ensure you actually hit the goal. If any of these statistics are skewed against you, maybe you have a slightly higher cost per call, maybe your show rate's a little worse off than what I show here. All that's factored into this math for you in this example to ensure that you have a very high probability to hit your 40 to 50 desired qualified calls per day. I assumed a 70% show rate to the first call. Some of the strategies that I've talked about on my channel, including the hammer them ad strategy and the tornado ad strategy, these ensure a very high probability that you experience at least 65 to 70% show rates. Again, with the 2-call close model that I've demonstrated to you here today, I'm assuming the best. With the 1-call close model, I'm assuming the average, and I'm biasing more towards a conservative set of statistics. In the 2-call close model, we have some additional steps. Allow me to walk through those real quick. You had 70% of people show up to the first call. In the 2-call close model, I assume that you had 65% of people book a second call, meaning out of everybody that showed up, you had 65% that said, yeah, I'd like to know more and I'm interested to get on that second call. 65%. Again, generally a very well-performing statistic on a 2-call close model. I then put that you average a 60% show rate on that second call, and I put that you averaged a 38% close rate in your second call, 2-call close model. In both scenarios, I put that you cash collected a $7,500 AOV, the amount you collect per sale on average, cash collected. Not revenue for the future, not payment plan revenue, again, the amount you actually cash collect per sale. You'd want to plug in your real numbers into this model so it represents what you need it to look like to know how many calls, how much spend, what your show rates need to be for you to hit your 40 to 50 qualified calls per day. In the 1-call close, we have the same $250K in ad spend. We have the same $200 cost per qualified call. That produces the 1,250 calls in the month, 62.5 per day, assuming they take 20 days per month to actually take those said calls. We assumed the same 70% show rate, because again, there'd be no difference. And we assumed only a 15% close rate in the 1-call close model, assuming that on average, you're gonna close people at a little lower rate, about half, more than half of the rate of your 2-call close model, as you should in a 1-call close. 1-call closes generally experience a lower close rate because you're trying to go for a 1-call close. Very simple. The same cash collected on average at the $7,500. And in this case, for the additional expenses that we factored out, you see here where it says Megalodon fee. My agency's name is Megalodon Marketing. On average, we take $15,000 a month in a recurring retainer. I'm assuming that with your marketing cost, with whatever you pay your current marketer, maybe a video production cost for some video guys or some other people in your marketing team that you pay for, that you're gonna be around the same of a $15,000 recurring expense in a month to take against this gross revenue that we've generated off that $250 in ad spend. I've assumed that you're gonna pay 20% to your closers. And the 2-call close model, that's very common. Same thing in a 1-call close model. Again, for your math, ideally you model it out for what you're actually gonna experience. You'll then note I put gross profit. Because again, you have other expenses that you've got to factor against this revenue, such as your operating costs, all your other payroll costs, taxes, whatever other expenses your business is gonna incur. I don't know those. I'm not gonna average them out. I'm just gonna assume here that you've risked $250,000 in your 2-call close model. It grossed you $972. You were just shy of the $1 million a month with this current set of KPIs. And in your 1-call close model, you risked $250,000, you grossed $984,000, and you gross profited $513 in the 2 close and $522,000 in your 1-call close. I tried to make it so it was less biased towards the 1-call. And again, I want to be clear in saying generally a 2-call close has more degradation per step, more deterioration per step, less people flowing through to the next step than a 1-call close, but I wanted the math to be more even so you could see for yourself what both could look like if they were actually evenly matched. Now, when you do the math here, we can tell right away, we're not hitting $1 million month with this current set of KPIs. We would either need to spend a little more, or we would need to make sure that our cost per call is a little lower, or we would need to make sure that our show rate's a little higher, or we need to make sure that our close rate's a little higher. Lastly, we could just cash collect a little bit more per sale. We would cross over that threshold. In this particular case, in the 2-call close, we generated 130 high-ticket clients within that month. In the 1-call close, we generated 131 within that same month, evenly matched. Now, from this perspective, again, it shoots over the gap. At 40 to 50 calls per day, at $250 in ad spend, at a $200 cost per call, at a 70% show rate, and the one call closed at a 15% close rate, 7,500 cash collected, you're put in a position where you exceeded the 40 to 50 qualified calls per day. Now we need to talk on the funnels that are probable to help get you that type of KPI. A usual call funnel can be done to hit that type of benchmark. Again, it's a very average statistics that I just demonstrated to you in the financial model that all have an extremely high probability to achieve that set of statistics and KPIs as an outcome. If you've been to my channel before, you know that I'm a big fan of very simple call funnels. Most of these funnels have a headline at the top. They have a VSL and or a mini webinar. I'll go through some VSL practices with you here. I do have an entire video, by the way, dedicated to helping you build a VSL for high ticket products. I'd encourage that you check that out. And if you're one of my students, Inner Circle members, or clients, I also have a Mastering VSLs SOP that you can check out and look in detail in order to replicate. And it does have several VSL examples in it as well from clients of ours that have produced $1 million months. Okay, this is either a VSL, a mini webinar, or a mini webinar 2.0. Mini webinars are very effective. The mini webinar 2.0 is also extremely effective. They are a structured, templated webinar presentation that you go through. In comparison, a VSL flow can look a little different. A VSL would look more like this. You're standing in front of the camera, you're articulating yourself. Not everybody's good at that. A mini webinar can be a little less daunting. It's a templated presentation. You're building it out ahead of time. It's scripted. You are not having to show yourself if you don't want to. You could use a teleprompter and talk along the slides that are encouraged for you to follow through. Most people who use the mini webinar record their screens and they just go through the presentation that they've created in order to sell people. Very effective. The difference between the mini webinar 1.0 and the mini webinar 2.0 is the sophistication of who it's intended to sell to. A mini webinar 1.0 is very effective for any type of product that is typically less than $5,000. The mini webinar 2.0 is very effective for any type of product that's more of a make money offer and exceeds the cost of $5,000. Even if it's less than $5,000, but it's something that makes people money, I'd encourage you to use the mini webinar 2.0. It's more effective and it's built for a make money offer. That's generally the difference. Mini webinars 1.0 and a standard VSL can be used for any product cost, high ticket, product or service, doesn't necessarily matter. But again, if you're doing any kind of make money offer, I'd really encourage that you look at our mini webinar 2.0. I don't have any YouTube videos where I go through that. That's something that I exclusively talk about to my Inner Circle students, clients, and my Master Internet Marketing students as well. I'd encourage you to check out those links in the description if you're interested in getting access to all of the higher level material like that. But again, VSL's still very effective here. Now, in this lower half of the page, we typically put an application. Now, in our application, we are going to use two different tools. These softwares are generally the best combination because they lower the overall drop-off rate that usually occurs between an application and a scheduler when they are separated. We use Typeform and we use Calendly. They have an integration together. Simply put, when I have a Typeform, that within the Typeform itself, okay, it doesn't take them to a secondary page, it's within the actual Typeform, I have a much higher application to booking rate. If I separate out the application and the scheduler onto separate pages, I'm going to have a significant drop-off rate that I have to deal with as a business. Generally, and this is an average statistic, you get about a 50% drop-off rate between an application and a scheduler if they're on separate pages. That would, just to be clear in terms of the mathematical ramifications of that, increase your cost per call twice as much as what it would otherwise be if you integrated the calendar into the application. Now, I typically get a lot of questions at this step like, oh, well, I pay for HubSpot or I pay for Go High Level and I want to justify using only this one specific software and I don't want to have to use Typeform and Calendly. Well, that's fine. You're just going to either have an uglier form that doesn't convert as well, or you're going to not have your logic, your conditional logic in the Typeform itself or in your application, I should say, and you're just going to have a higher cost per call as a result. I get it. In an ideal world, there's some magical software that would exist that generally has all of the different tools and softwares that we need built into it, but I still, in 2024, 2025 onward, have not found that all-in-one solution that converts as well as these standalone companies. That's why they exist. Typeform is an application company. That's literally all it does. Therefore, as a company, they build typically the best converting forms comparatively to every other form out there that you can buy. HubSpot, as a publicly traded company, they have a fuckload of other stuff that they focus on. Yeah, their application's converting well. You'd think they'd prioritize it, but they have a super fucking ugly application that just typically doesn't convert as well as Typeform. Vice versa to other softwares. Yes, I've used Jotforms. Yes, I've used Go High Level Forms. Yes, I've used every other fucking software you can imagine and sit here and name off. I'm not biased. I don't want to be right. I just want to make money. At the end of the day, the reason I say Typeform and Calendly as my specific combination is because consistently, test after test after test, when I try to prove myself wrong, I generate a cheaper cost per qualified call, and I get more qualified calls when I use that specific combination of softwares for my application and scheduler. No, I'm not an affiliate for either one of them. I'm just trying to put you on game and make you more money, okay? So again, if you want to spend a little less and you want to get a higher quantity of qualified calls with that less spend, makes a lot of sense to combine your scheduler and your application step together. If I separate them out, on average, I'm seeing a 50% drop from a qualified applicant not booking a call. Really dependent upon your sales team and how you've got it set up can dictate if that actually matters to you or not, to be fair. In most instances, teams nowadays, closing teams, they hate anything other than scheduled calls. There are a minority of the clients and inner circle members that we've worked with through time that have a genuinely great sales team that fucking crush it when they get any kind of inbound lead that has interest in their offers. They're excited and enthused to be able to call on those people, whether they've booked a call or not. If you have a setter team like that, you can benefit from strategies well beyond a standard call funnel, like my Hydra ad strategy that leverages instant forms. You could even add an opt-in page if you wanted to your call funnel and not suffer as a result, because again, you have a team that can close a dramatically high quantity of people who are just giving you their basic information and lay those up into scheduled calls that close. In almost all other instances, let's just pivot over to this next piece of logic for you with your funnel. You should not be using an opt-in page. You should not be creating additional friction. You should be sending people from the direct response ad straight to the VSL page with the application on it. If you add an opt-in page, I just want you, or if you're already right now running an opt-in page, I want you to go do some super simple math real quick. I want you to go run a report from your CRM that demonstrates it's worth having an opt-in page. The math is pretty simple. You want to run a tag report for people who opted in but did not apply or schedule. How many did you close within the last 30 days? How many did you close in the last 60 days, the last 90 days? Who opted in and did not schedule? How much money did you make from that? If it's a worthwhile amount of money, fantastic. I'm proud of you, and I would encourage that you keep the opt-in page as a result. I don't want to be right. I just want to make you money. I want to make money. If you run that math and you see that you have, first of all, an inflated cost per call as a result of adding that additional point of friction, and no money or little to no money is coming from that opt-in step being there, get rid of that fucking opt-in step. It is worthless to you and you're not producing revenue from it. If you don't have a way to run that math, get rid of the opt-in page, because there's a dramatically higher probability that it is losing you money, inflating your cost per call artificially, and again, just creating unnecessary friction in your process, therefore making it harder for you to generate your 40 to 50 qualified scheduled calls per day. We're trying to make it easier, not harder. We're trying to let more qualified people through, not less. You would be very surprised to hear the numbers of how many people that we run that math with. Hey, is your opt-in page, you got an opt-in page? Oh yeah, let's go run the math. Over the last 90 days, tell me how much revenue came from people who opted in and didn't apply and didn't book. Dude, it's so fucking negligible, it's comical, but it's such a substantial number in terms of how fucked it turns your funnels. I can't stress it enough. Opt-in pages are generally worthless and they don't make you a lot of money. The logic being you're capturing their email, you get the opportunity to follow up with them at a later point. You could do that anyway. Everybody who hits your page, minus the people who have pixel blockers turned on, which still, as a result of you, let's say on average, 50% of people have a pixel blocker nowadays, which it's not that much, by the way. Sometimes it's 40%, so it's pretty close to 50. But let's just say it's 50% of people are blocking a pixel. Are you getting a 50% opt-in rate on your page? What's your open rate on average? You know, you're capturing less than half the people and emailing them thinking that they're later gonna buy, and they regularly don't. I, on the other hand, don't have an opt-in page, and I contextually remarket to the people who hit my page and didn't apply. I'm following up with 50% of people for a small cost, because it's a pocket audience. It's a pocket opportunity. I've created an entire video, by the way, here on my YouTube channel that you can go check out after this on exploiting pocket opportunities. There are contextual actual opportunities, just like this one I'm using as an example. People who hit your VSL page didn't apply. That's remarketing a small budget. You might be able to put $100, $200, maybe $500 a day if you're operating at scale towards that specific audience to come back and convert using other hooks. Maybe using a different VSL to get them to convert. Maybe using a DSL, a deck sales letter, which is a strategy I teach to my inner circle members, master internet marketing students, and clients. Rather than using a VSL, if you get a low play rate, you can use a deck that is embedded into the page to go through all the information that the person would have otherwise consumed in the VSL. I can create pocket opportunities to drive that person back and get in front of way more fucking people than you ever will, capturing their email with that stupid opt-in page that makes you no money most likely than you'll ever get with your opt-in page emailing people. And again, factoring in your open rate to how many of those people you're actually following up with successfully, you're on average, let's say, getting in front of 10 to 20% of the people that opted in. Maybe if you're lucky, half the people who opted in if you average 50% show rates. Me, I'm getting in front of 100% of the people that became retargetable, which is at least half of the people who hit that page and didn't convert. You see what I mean? I don't need a fucking opt-in page. I don't need to artificially increase my cost per call. I don't need to artificially degrade my ROAS. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do my pocket opportunities and exploit the revenue in more obvious ways. So again, VSL call funnel best practices. It's generally a call funnel that's used more than almost all the other variables that exist to actually get people to convert, okay? More than anything else, it's a call funnel nowadays. I do want to give a shout out to DM strategies, and I also want to give a shout out to strategies like low tickets to high ticket. These can also create additional calls per day that come in, and I don't want to make it sound like it's only call funnels that produce 40 to 50 call slots per day, but again, it's typically the easiest and most direct way to do so. DM strategies are very effective. Lead form strategies are also very effective, but it's very dependent upon the skills of your sales team for whether they're going to be capable of actually making that work for them or not. That's why I specifically focus on the call funnel. Almost all of our clients, almost all of our inner circle members have pretty trash, like I call them fat cat closers. They're sales teams that only prefer scheduled calls, and they do very poorly with setting to scheduled. If you are one of the people out there that does have a proper setting team and real salespeople, you will likely be able to exploit DM strategies, instant form strategies like the Hydra, in addition to that, low ticket to high ticket strategies very successfully. And you're likely one of the people that could benefit from an opt-in. Most of you will not, and I'm talking to most of you, okay? Now, when you build a funnel this way, it's generally a two-step funnel. After they go to your main page where your headline, VSL, application, and scheduler is, they go to a confirmation page. The confirmation page should be built in a very particular way. A confirmation page nowadays, especially factoring in that most people use Gmail, whether it's a business Gmail or a personal Gmail, Google did this dastardly little trick a couple months back in early 2024, and they still do this in 2025. There's really no relief or sign that they will ever revert this. If you, from whatever email you're trying to email the person from, have never communicated with that email before, I got bad news. The first thing that typically goes off when somebody books a call is the calendar invite. So when the calendar invite gets sent to somebody who just booked a call, but they've never had any previous email interaction with your organization, it's bad news. The email that has the calendar invite in it is gonna show up, and it's gonna say unknown sender, and it's gonna have an email that they can open where they have to press I know this sender, and then they can accept the calendar invite and it'll show up on their calendar. Historically, before this issue presented itself, a calendar invite would go out, and by default, you'd have an opportunity to get that right onto the person's calendar, and by default, your email would show up in their inbox saying, hey, we just sent you a calendar invite. It'd have all your fancy information in it, all the details. It wouldn't show up like it looked like literal spam. Google wouldn't block out your name or your company name and put unknown sender in place of it. It would show up representing your company and all the details you put in the calendar invite. Nowadays, it says, again, unknown sender. You have to press the button, I know this sender, to then add it to your calendar. The workaround to this, there's a few things that you can successfully do, and it all starts on the confirmation page. On almost every confirmation page that we run for clients, that's what the person sees right after they book successfully. We try to make sure that at the literal top, we say on the desktop version of the confirmation page, we put a screenshot of what that email looks like. That way the person knows exactly what they're gonna see in their inbox, and they press the I know this sender and then accept the calendar invite. On a mobile version, of that confirmation page, we have what it looks like in a mobile version of Gmail. So we put a mobile screenshot on the mobile confirmation page, we put a desktop screenshot on the desktop confirmation page, assuming the person's gonna go to their email right after they book and accept the calendar invite. It's very simple. The rest of the confirmation page we use for framing. We want to add several videos. Historically, we've ran with a singular video at the top of the page that's usually long and drawn out and has a bunch of framing material. People who get terrible show rates, their versions of these videos, you can generally tell if you're going through somebody's funnel if they get an absolute dog shit show rate because they'll ask questions in their applications that are super unsophisticated and show that they are not getting people successfully to show up well framed, where they ask questions like, did you watch the VSL in full? They'll ask questions like, you're about to book a call, like, will you actually show up to the call you book? You know, just, you can tell they're a fucking novice when they do stuff like that and have no idea what they're doing with the framing material after they book a call. People who do successfully frame people right after they book, before the call actually happens, would never need to ask a question like that because people will show up to the call framed, okay? So again, if you're one of those people that are just signaling to the world that you suck ass at framing and you're getting those two types of questions in your applications, did you watch the VSL? And are you actually gonna show up? I got some great information for you here later on in the video about the framing material, and I've got a lot of other information on my channel that can benefit you as well, so you don't continue to operate at that level and suffer with a low show rate, okay? On the confirmation page, back to my point, rather than putting a singular video here that goes through the framing information, we're gonna actually put several videos. So as an example, we generally put 3 short videos here that go through some of the most common questions and information. A lot of the times, surprisingly, people will go through a longer video and drop off at a higher rate. Whereas when they go through 3 separate videos that cover all the information you would have otherwise covered in one longer video, they consume it at a higher rate. It's very surprising, but it's very true. So on average, after we have the, hey, this is, you need to press this I know this center thing and accept the calendar invite, right below that, we're gonna have 3 separate, distinct videos that essentially resell the person. It's important to note, I'm a deep believer on this, your salesperson's level of interest is way up here, and that's where deals get done. The lead's level of interest is way down here. They might come in, as an example, curious, or they might even have just general interest, and that's the reason why they booked a call. They have more questions, they have more information they seek. They want the buying information, but again, where they become sold all the way up here, there's a lot of things you gotta do after the call gets booked to increase that level of interest, one level at a time, okay? And again, just to be clear, your salespeople should already be at the level of sold. Your lead's interest level is typically far lower. So after they book a call, don't make the rookie mistake of just thinking, this person, they obviously booked a call, they're gonna show up ready to buy. They want to buy, that's why they booked a call. That's untrue. That's a terrible mindset to have. You'd rather retain the mindset, I promise you this, of I need to sell this person before they show up. I need to get them the information they need to make an educated decision before they show up. And you get them as much information as I can right away in a very high quantity, rather than just assuming they're gonna show up ready to buy. Okay? So that all starts on the confirmation page. These 3 separate videos should essentially be what you just covered in your VSL in greater detail. Whatever your salespeople are most commonly bitching about, the person not knowing that they have to nurture and sell the person on the sales call, should be broke down into these 3 videos. That's generally as simple as it is. You can have one video for the nurturing, where again, you take all the feedback your salespeople give you and put it in that singular video. You could put another video where it's all of the objections that come up during your sales process, like an FAQ style video is what you're gonna frame it as. And then you have a third video where you're gonna specifically talk on case studies, expectations, and what people should overall expect and anticipate when they go through your process and they're about ready to buy, okay, or after they buy. The rest of the confirmation page should be absolutely fucking loaded with testimonials. There should be testimonial videos, and I want to be very, very clear when I say this. They should be highly believable testimonials. It should not be in any way, shape, or form like bullshit screenshots that look like they can be fake. They shouldn't be pretty testimonials where you take what people say and type out what they say with some random photo of them with like their first name and last initial. They have to be highly believable testimonials. Some people, just to be clear, don't even believe Trustpilot's real and they think it can be manipulated. These have to be ideally screenshotted from the place where you got them from. As a great example of this, the link in the description has this for my funnels. If you go to my inner circle and you look at that sales page, or technically it's an application page, we just have testimonials from people who said things about the inner circle. If you go to my master internet marketing page, this is a tremendous example of this. There is more than 3/4 of the page that are screenshotted testimonials from the people who had gone through the class week by week and what their perspective was after going through each week of the class. And feedback and testimonials from the people who concluded the class in its entirety. Again, 3/4 of the page is just littered with it. Ideally, you have that style on a confirmation page as well after somebody goes through your funnel. This is where your confirmation page really starts to shine and helps a tremendous amount with the overall framing that you're getting done right on the confirmation page itself. Treat it again from this perspective of I'm trying to increase their interest levels to get them to the point where by the time they show up to the call, my salespeople are just cashiers at that point. They're ready to close, they're happy to close, and they're excited to close. Okay, let's continue on to this next step, okay? After the confirmation page, this is where the hammer them strategy starts to come into play. The hammer them strategy is a content sequence. In addition to that, it's paired with some email marketing tactics. The hammer them, what it does is it takes content and it breaks it down into 4 categories. These 4 quadrants of content are what you need to be thinking with when you do the hammer them strategy. Questions, second layer questions, objections, and expectation. These are the 4 categories you need to think with. The people that I've helped that are my clients and my inner circle members specifically execute the hammer them strategy, I'll usually go through an exercise where we'll just map those 4 different quadrants onto a Google Doc, sometimes onto a whiteboard if we're doing it in person, and we'll create all of the questions here. Ideally, this should conclude to a minimum of 30 to 50 different pieces of content at a minimum, okay? The more the merrier. The questions, again, this is typically best taken from your salespeople's feedback, the questions are generally taken from what your salespeople are dealing with. Also, sometimes as the business owner, when you're just talking to leads before they actually book, or you're really tapped into what and why your leads are converting, you know the questions that they're generally asking prior to buying. Okay, so I'm gonna give you an example. Let's say that you're selling a product that teaches people how to make money. It's one of the most common products that's high ticket as a service or an info product or some kind of physical product even. And the make money product, there's some question categories that you can kind of break it down to. There's questions on the vehicle itself, okay? There's questions that come up after the original questions get answered. Those are second layer questions. There's objections about the vehicle. And then there's expectations, like what does it take from me? How much does it cost? How long until I get the result? Like these are more expectations than objections or just general questions. The questions that you originally address should be as simple as this sounds, under 90 seconds, optimized for vertical shorts and reels, and posted either straight to your Instagram account or ran as a dark post. These framing pieces of content that you categorically fit into these 4 quadrants. You then create a retargeting audience. The retargeting audience is people who booked a call, okay? So people who booked, ideally, it's whatever time frame from when they book to when they actually show up for the call. Generally, that's 72 hours. Now, if you're successfully generating the 40 to 50 qualified sales calls per day, well, at a minimum in 72 hours, you're gonna have 120 people retargetable. 40 times 3. You might have upwards of 150 people. If you follow the math that I provided at the very beginning of the call, you have 62.5 calls every day. That's upwards of 180 people booking every 72 hours. So you go into the Facebook audiences section, you can do this on TikTok, you can do this on LinkedIn as well. In addition to that, you can also take everybody booking from your YouTube and organic channels and still pile them into this audience for the people who book. The hammer then proves extremely effective at increasing your show rates, increasing your close rates, increasing your average order value, the amount you collect per sale on average. In addition to that, it typically sells people more. That's why. It gets people all the information that they need that they otherwise would have waited for your salesperson or done research on their own to find out. But it comes from you, it comes from your business, and it comes at them in a very overwhelming way where they don't feel the need to go research elsewhere. That's the intention of the hammer them strategy. We want to at least have 30 to 50 pieces of content in this specific campaign that within 72 hours, we want to see a frequency, okay? Frequency meaning how many times a person sees one of these pieces of content within that 72 hours, okay? In this case, I want a frequency of at least 15 to 20. Every single video in this campaign for how it's technically set up has an exclusion of 3 seconds for the video. That means that as soon as somebody sees one of these videos for at least 3 seconds, they never see it again. That's the ideal scenario here, because that would mean out of the other 30 to 50 pieces of content that they could see, once they watch one, they'll never watch that one again. They'll immediately see one of the other pieces of content that's available to them. That's the ideal scenario for how this gets set up, okay? And obviously, if you want to know all the technical how-tos of setting this thing up, I go through it currently with my Inner Circle members. I also teach it to my Master Internet Marketing students. Obviously, we just execute it on behalf of our clients that work with us. Check out the links in the description if you're interested in any of that. In the Inner Circle program, we do twice a month one-on-one calls. I can walk through exactly what you need to be filming for your offer in your 4 quadrants. I can ensure that you have every single layer of a funnel like this set up successfully. We can review your direct response ads on an ongoing basis and ensure that you are maximizing your ad spend and ROAS. We do weekly group calls. We do quarterly in-person masterminds here in Miami, Florida at the Penthouse building. In addition to that, we have a group chat full of rich people trying to get a hell of a lot richer. It's perfect for you if you're already making a killing and you want to make a fuckload more than you're at right now. I'd encourage you to check that out, link in the description. If you want to train your marketing staff, check out my Master Internet Marketing program. Again, also a link down in the description. Okay, frequency count of at least 15 to 20 is extremely ideal and critical. At a minimum, it should be 15 to 20 pieces of content within that 72 hours. That would mean if you have a frequency of 15, they saw 5 pieces of content per day for that 72-hour window. If you have 20, that would mean they'd see on average about 7-ish, 6 to 7 pieces of content within that 72-hour window. Again, very ideal. Now, the other layer of the hammer them strategy, which is very important to make sure you master, is the email side of it. Now, this might sound quite aggressive for those of you out there who don't understand why this amount of information needs to get in front of people, but allow me to explain. You want to send 6 emails per day in that 72-hour window, okay? So in addition to the content, we're taking those same questions. We're taking those same second layer questions. We're taking those same objections. We're taking those same expectations, all the things that we made content for, and we're just breaking them down into email. Except obviously here, you don't need 30 to 50, you need 18. 18 emails prior to somebody showing up to a call. Historically, when I've made full videos going through the hammer them strategy, and I've explained it in greater detail than what I've done here with you today on my YouTube channel, available for you to consume after watching this, I have talked about the example of taxes. At one point, I got targeted with an ad. I live here in the United States, I'm a resident, and again, I live in Miami, Florida. I am just a little fucking tax cow for the good old federal government here in the United States, since thanks God, Florida does not have state taxes. Now, the amount I pay per year is upwards of 37 to 40% of the total amount that we net as a business and as an individual. I got targeted with an ad saying, hey, if you're a United States citizen or resident and you're considering lowering your tax burden, you could potentially move your corporation, your entity, to Dubai and get lower tax burden as a result. And that hook was enough for me to book a call. Unfortunately for them, they gave me 9 full days between the time I booked and the time that the call was before the call would actually have occurred. Well, this was an actual problem for me. I pay a lot of money in taxes. And a total side note, by the way, for any poor people out there that might coincidentally be watching this, yes, taxes do coincidentally make decisions for rich people all the time. Very comical when somebody that you might think is rich tries to virtue signal and say, oh no, I don't make decisions based on taxes. Like fucking idiots. You don't optimize your life around retaining wealth that you create? Okay, I do. So again, this hook was very appealing to me. Well, since they gave me 9 full days, and since this was a very pressing problem for me given the amount I pay in taxes every year, I started doing my research throughout that 9-day duration of time. They didn't give me any information. They did the classic, stupid, noob, novice way of getting you to show up for a call by just sending basic ass reminder emails. Hey, you got a call coming up in 9 days. Hey, you successfully booked your call. Hey, you got a call coming up in 2 days. Make sure you show up. They provided me no education, nothing to help me do my research. So what was I left to do? I'm a rich guy, okay? I teach you how to sell to rich people. You know what rich people do? Rich people do their research to figure out if it's worth showing up for your sales call or not. Ideally, that research comes from you. If it doesn't come from you, they'll do the fucking research anyway somehow to justify to them, come time that your scheduled call is, if they're gonna do that or do the infinite other things that they could do to make money instead. Your thing is a spend money thing in the short term. Rich people optimize their life around make money things. So again, if you have a low show rate, it's because you are not giving people the necessary information pre-call for them to justify showing up. They instead justify doing everything else they could have done otherwise in order to make money instead of spending money with you. Okay? You get what I'm saying? Point is, 6 emails a day sounds like a lot. Dude, if that fucking Dubai company that wanted to move my fucking legal entity over to them actually sent me 6 emails a day, I would have read every single one of them. Not the bullshit, hey, you got a call coming up, bullshit emails. I'm talking about actual education-based emails, things that helped me do my research. There were so many questions. I'll give you a great example using this one for the 4 quadrants, okay? Let's walk through this together. My initial questions. Is that actually possible for me to not pay taxes in the United States as a citizen from solely flowing money through Dubai? Okay, the actual answer is no, by the way, if you're curious. There's no way to do that unless I renounce my United States citizenship, become a citizen of a tax haven, and again, I'd be renouncing my ability to be here in the good old US of A, which I don't want to do. I'm not interested in doing that, okay? Regardless, they couldn't have answered that question with a yes. They still could have given me some information about how I probably could have lowered my overall tax burden as a result of flowing my profits from my corporation offshore and offshoring the profits and then paying myself as a person a little less. That could have lowered my tax burden a bit from what I've understood in my research. Again, I'm not an accountant. I have no fucking clue if that's accurate or not, but that's what my research indicated to me. That would have been great to learn from them, and that still would have increased my probability of showing up to the call. Another question I'd have, taking my corporation and legalizing it in Dubai, I assume dissolves my legal entity here in the United States? Does that mean that all my business credit that I built up through the last decade vaporizes? Do I personally take a hit on my ability to get expeditiously large credit lines because of the amount that I make on a month-over-month, year-over-year basis and that I've historically reported with my tax returns? Do I lower my probability to buy exceptionally expensive real estate or vehicles from diminishing the overall amount that I'm reporting on my taxes? You know, there's all kinds of questions like this. And these original questions getting answered lead to what we call second layer questions, which are the questions you don't really think of until after the first question gets answered. I commonly use this example of New Yorkers who talk about their water. If you ever have heard a random New Yorker flexing the fact that their bagels or pizza are better, and you ask them why, the original question would be, hey, why do you guys say that your pizza and bagels are better? The original answer would be, oh, our water's better than your water. Does that not immediately create a second layer question for you? Sure does for me. The second layer question being, what the fuck are you talking about your water's better? The second layer answer would be, oh yeah, we have soft water here. It has more mineral content, per whatever of water. That results in our water affecting things like bread, which obviously has a large amount of water as an ingredient. It's like, okay, great. That satiates my answers. But if you leave me hanging after the first question gets answered, I don't feel like my question really got answered at all. All you technically did was just, again, leave me at the stated level of interest I was prior, but now just with another question. You see? You gotta satiate all the levels of questions, the original questions, and more importantly, the second layer of questions. From there, you have some objections, okay? Again, back to the Dubai example of offshoring my corporation to potentially alleviate my tax burden. My objections would be, I don't know, man, like, how do I trust that you're gonna do all this? Like, I make a tremendous amount of money, it seems super risky, seems like there's more downside than upside. I'd expect them to be able to handle that somehow, Or maybe they'd charge me, let's say, like $50,000, and maybe they want me to pay it all at once. Like, my objection would be, I don't know if I want to pay you all at once. I think I'd rather pay like a certain amount up front to get started with the process and like pay you in milestones as you accomplish the different things that you're supposed to accomplish. A reasonable objection. And then again, expectations. Expectations being like, all right, well, how long does this transition take? Expectations being things like, do I get fucked with my credit or do I still have credit? Expectations being, do I have to ever like visit Dubai? If I do, like, how long do I gotta be there? And again, some of these things you can interpret as one of the other 4 quadrants, but just keep in mind, the more the merrier, okay? The more content you can create that answers all these questions, the better off you're gonna be. If you are struggling to come up with any of these 4 quadrants of content and therefore struggling to come up with the content that should be in your 18 total emails over 72 hours, the 6 emails a day, it's because you have no fucking clue what's going on in your business and what's going on in your consumer's mind that's spending money with you, and you need to be tapped into that. As a business owner, I can't argue enough how ridiculous it is for you to not be somewhat involved in management of your sales team, management of your marketing team. The common illusion from the business owner who says, oh, I need to take myself fully out of the business. Well, it's like you better have some other smart people that you've hired to be able to go in there and create these 4 quadrants of content. If you're not able to come up with it yourself or see your existing staff come up with it yourself, you need to hire some better people or get some consultant like me to come in there, put you on game, and go through your sales process. Look at your sales calls. Listen to your sales team's feedback. Listen to your marketers, Look at like conversations that are happening on behalf of your business, and you'll easily be able to reflect and come up with these. In addition to that, you're generally able to guess. I want to be very fair in saying they have to be real. Like, yeah, sometimes you're going to make up what the questions are. Sometimes you're going to make up the objections and the expectations and the second layer questions because you're going to take an educated guess. You might not have a lot of data yet. But when you're trying to get 40 to 50 qualified sales calls a day, I'm going to assume you're the guy or girl sitting here right now watching this that does have all that data, and you might just be negligent to it in the instance. You're not looking at it in the instance that you're struggling to come up with these ideas. Talk to your people, talk to your customers, incentivize the existing people who have already spent money with you with like a fucking gift card or something, or some extra product or service that you could give them for free for giving you this feedback. It is so beneficial to successfully implement the hammer them strategy. I can't stress it enough. Might sound biased because I'm the creator of it, but again, I genuinely am convinced the hammer them strategy is going to raise the global GDP of Earth from how successful this specific content targeting strategy is. It does everything from improving show rates, improving close rates, shortening sales cycles, increasing average order values. It's fucking tremendous at turning your salespeople into cashiers. To neglect the importance of this one step in generating 40 to 50 qualified sales calls a day or pushing it off is to undermine the level of impact that it's going to have within your organization. Same thing with almost all the other little pieces of advice I've given you here today. These aren't like little negligible random things I'm pulling out of my ass over here for you. These are high level things, tactics, strategies, data points, little things you could do that I have spent an unbound amount of money on behalf of clients and my own organization, learning, mastering, and now handing down to you. Don't neglect the impact and importance of any one of these particular points. Now, back to my point. Okay, 6 emails a day, 15 to 20 pieces of content through the hammer them strategy, getting in front of somebody. From here, you have to reflect a little bit, okay? You gotta give it a little bit of time, see the impact of it, and see potential tweaks and changes that you might otherwise need to make to your hammer them process. Give you a great example. I was on a consulting call about 2 hours ago, and I'm talking to a client and their sales team. And their sales team was given feedback that they were having to do a lot of nurturing. They were having to do a lot of selling. Now remember, the goal of the hammer them strategy is to successfully turn the salespeople into cashiers. Now, when you ask the salespeople, what are you having to nurture people on? We got tremendous feedback. When you ask them, what kind of objections? Objections are holding people back. They give you tremendous feedback. And when you go look at the hammer them strategy, they had a frequency within 72 hours of 24. That means 24 individual pieces of content are hammering somebody within a 72-hour period of time. But when you go look at the content that's being used versus you look at the feedback happening from the sales team, there was a discrepancy. The content did not handle what the sales team was talking about. So we had to adjust the hammer them strategy, okay? Content goes out, new content's being shot, new content will be in place of the old content, or even better, in addition to the content that's already there. And ideally, you then have that reflection window where you can then watch and observe the sales team and their feedback change on whether they're successfully converting people through time with whatever adjustments you had made. Okay, all very critical things in order to implement. Same thing with the emails. You can reflect on the same type of feedback from the sales team. The ideal feedback when you implement the hammer them strategy and then reflect on the sales team's feedback is the sales team say, leads are showing up hotter. You see, again, the statistics in your show rate improving. You see the statistics in your close rate improving. Main thing though, the leading KPI is salesperson feedback. Are they saying people are showing up hotter? People are showing up warmer. People are showing up like more excited to close. Sales timeline is shortening. Those are all the positive effects you're gonna see in the hammer them strategy, leading indicator again being the salesperson's feedback, okay? Now after you implement just these things alone that I've talked about, the other things that you can do are to reflect on the direct response, okay? In some instances, it's not necessarily the hammer them that needs adjusted. In some instances, it's the direct response. On that same consulting call that I was doing earlier today, where we were getting the sales team's feedback and trying to make improvements, they had said, you know, a lot of people show up saying, hey, you have a $10,000 offer, but I was told in the ads that I only needed $10,000 to be able to take action on this. Based on what you're describing to me, it seems like I need $20,000. $10,000 for your offer and $10,000 to go out and take action with what you're teaching me to do. That's true. That's a real objection. When you go back and you look at all the direct response ads, almost every direct response ad for this business continuously said, hey, if you've got $10,000, if you got $10,000, if you got $10,000, that was used in almost every hook on every ad, okay? It needs to actually say, if you've got $20,000, that would alleviate that objection right away. So again, you have to take the feedback you're getting from your sales team, look at the hammer them strategy, but again, you also gotta look at the direct response ads and see what could potentially be tweaked there to improve your overall process and make more revenue, okay? Now back to the overall point of this entire video, generating those 40 to 50 qualified sales calls per day that are probable to close. From here, you have the dynamic of the closers to factor in as well. Okay, your closers make or break you actually spending that $200,000 to $300,000 in a month that you're gonna risk and successfully turning it into more money. Your closers, there's a few KPIs that are a joint statistic that are shared and influenced by both marketing and your sales team. Your marketing controls the ad spend, the cost per call, and partially the show rate. Your sales team controls and influences the show rate as well. Your sales team obviously also influences close rate as well as your marketing team. Same thing with cash collected, a joint statistic responsible by both the marketing and the sales team. As little as most marketers want to admit, they do have tremendous influence over those statistics. To be clear, when you are in a position where you start maximizing what your sales team does, okay, there's a few very key best practices that have to be implemented. I just want to take a moment and tell you, on my YouTube channel, I have an entire 4-hour video. I think it's almost 5 hours long, where I took an entire sales training course that I created, full of every single best practice, some of which I'll highlight here now for you in this masterclass video. It's an entire sales training class. I would encourage that you as the business owner go through it. I would encourage your sales management goes through it. And I would encourage that obviously your sales people go through it as well. Critical, super high value. Again, tremendous in length, but something that's really good to go back and train on and break down into modules through time. For any one of my students, master internet marketing students, high ticket agency students, if you are in the inner circle, if you're one of my clients, if you go into your course library, it's broke down there video by video, whereas here on YouTube, it's just clumped together in one massive video. So it's much more organized for the people who do spend money with us. You can find that in your training library in the instance you're already a student of ours, or an inner circle member or a client. Okay, so sales best practices is what you get into next. Okay, and sales best practices, critical, obviously can't be ignored. Let's start off with show rate, okay? There are some softwares out there which I think could be promising through time. Currently, the inner circle, we took a risk and like a few of us tried some of these softwares where they claim that you can send messages from a CRM-like infrastructure that connects to softwares like Go High Level, and it sends via a blue text. Okay, so it makes it look like it was sent from an iPhone. And these softwares are fucking janky right now. Like, they're not good. They're promising, but again, they're like super clanky. I've seen about a 50-50 positive versus extremely negative interaction and experience with these softwares so far. So I'm still extremely sold that your sales team needs to be communicating pre-call with leads via a good old iPhone. There's nothing better than this yet in terms of getting that damn show rate up. Your salespeople ideally, as soon as they get calls booked, or at the end of the day after they're done with their calls, or when somebody doesn't show up and they have free time, they take out their fucking iPhone. Because again, it's very important I stress this real quick before I give this specific tactical piece of advice on selfie videos. This gets responses, especially when you're selling to rich people. Everybody is regularly used to interacting with bots and getting spam, and just honestly thinks less of Android users. No offense to you Android users, but people think you're poor, okay? But a majority of what I'm trying to emphasize is bots and spam and automated text come from green text messages, okay? That's the importance of what I want to stress. When it's sent from an iPhone, that's a huge signal in today's day and age that it's a real person. And you see tremendously higher responses. Okay, back to the advice I'm trying to give. When you communicate from an iPhone as a salesperson, and your sales team does this regularly, they have a dramatically higher probability to get in communication with a lead before the call. That dramatically improves your show rates. And ideally, they don't just do like a bullshit, hey, this is name from this company name. You just booked a call with us. Excited to chat with you. That's whack. Ideally, they pull out their phone and they do a selfie video. It's like, hey, I'm Jeremy. I work with this company. You just actually booked a call with me for about 2 days from now at 3 in the afternoon. Really looking forward to connecting with you. This is my personal cell. Hey, do me a favor. Can you shoot me a text back and let me know if you're interested in getting this? I have a video just based on your application data. I saw you answered it this particular way. I think it's an awesome video. It's gonna give you a lot of information to help you out with this before our call. Can you shoot me a text and let me know if this is your number, and I'll shoot it over to you if you want it. All right, talk soon. They send off a video like that. They bait the response, okay? It's engagement bait. The higher the engagement before a call, the higher the show rate. It's as simple as that. Humans are pretty simple in the sense that if we connect with somebody before a sales call, we feel like we're letting them down if we don't show up. There's officially a face to the name. There's somebody that we're letting down, and people generally, for the most part, that aren't pieces of shit, don't like to let people down. That's how it goes. Okay? So again, try to get your salespeople to communicate from an iPhone. And yeah, you're sitting here thinking, oh, well, there's a lot of cons to that, Jeremy. I'm not gonna be able to observe everything that they're communicating through my CRM. My salespeople aren't gonna have the convenience of sitting there at a computer and communicating from our CRM phone number. Yeah, well, guess what? You're gonna have a much higher show rate, and you're gonna make a lot more fucking money. Okay? Talk to me after that instead of saying it's a con right now, okay? Because again, you make a fuckload more money, I bet there's gonna be a big old smile on your face in comparison to have all your salespeople sending from green Android looking bot texts and still having that fucked up show rate that you have right now. They're gonna be a lot happier after that improves and you make more cash, okay? The cons are far outweighed by the pros of just using an iPhone. And yeah, sometimes your salespeople are gonna say, well, I don't wanna use my personal number. Nut up and get them a fucking iPhone on a business plan, okay? You got salespeople and you want to make them a fuckload of money? Get a business plan for a couple $100 a month for, again, you're doing 40 to 50 qualified sales calls in a day. You've got 5 to 7 closers. Get a fucking family plan or a business plan with 5 to 7 lines on it for a couple $100 a month. Get them all iPhones. You don't even have to pay cash for the iPhones anymore. All these phone companies give you the ability to finance them now. You could fucking use a Goldman Sachs Apple card and finance 7 iPhones if you can't get approved on a family plan for 7 individual iPhones with the financing options over the 2-year contract. And again, one of the salespeople leaves, no problem. Make them sign some documentation that says they're gonna give all that company equipment back to you at the point of no longer being a part of the company. Alleviate the cons, okay? Just because you can't monitor what they're saying doesn't mean you can't get them on a Zoom call during the sales training you should be regularly doing on a daily basis and observing, hey, share your screen, go through your text, show me what you're communicating with people. Let's see what's holding back the responses. Again, selfie videos, iPhone communication, not using these random softwares that say they can send blue text messages because they're still pieces of shit. Not saying that the cons of, oh, I can't observe them all through a CRM or have them all communicate with a CRM so I can like automate shit. It's like, dude, again, the dramatic difference in show rate is so worthwhile. Okay, let's continue on to some of the other best practices here with salespeople, okay? The next one being, we've got sales management to talk about. You have to have proper sales management. You can't have these turkey businesses that are not properly managing the closers that are in the staff. You got, again, 40 to 50 qualified sales calls coming in per day. You have got so much fucking money on the line. You are either your sales manager or you are gonna hire the literal best sales manager that you can possibly recruit, okay? Just because you have a great closer doesn't mean they'll be a great sales manager. You can't always promote from within. You need a good sales manager. Don't fall victim to these stupid, very, very, very poor outsourced sales agencies that exist. There are literally a single digit of outsourced sales agencies that I trust. One of them being Josh Troy with Wires from strangers. That is literally the only sales agency. No exaggeration, no bias. I make no money from referring you to Josh, okay? I want to be very clear in saying they're the only ones that I've worked with as a marketer over the last like 6 years. You know, again, these types of offers started originating out there and being sold to businesses that have actually staffed great salespeople with proper sales management also staffed onto the accounts. Sales management being proper means they'll listen to the sales calls. They'll literally watch the recordings. They'll do daily sales training. They'll do closer depositions. They're gonna get feedback per sale or per lead that they talk to. Whether they didn't talk to them, closed them, didn't close them, they're gonna get real feedback on why and what happened. And they're gonna relay that to the marketing team. So critical to have proper sales management. Sales management is also gonna communicate on behalf of the sales team to the marketing team and to the business owner about what's going on in the sales team. Real actionable advice, not bullshit like, oh, all the leads are bad. That's not real. That's not genuine feedback. There's nothing actionable about that. Actionable feedback comes from the depositions that are per person that went through that 40 to 50 call process and the salesperson giving genuine feedback on it. Without proper sales management, again, the reason I highlight the absolute dog shit services that all these sales agencies provide, besides the one that I mentioned that's good, they don't have proper sales management. They absolutely run through shit closers and staff them onto your account, and they lose you a tremendous amount of money as a result. The illusion is like, yeah, they take a lot of weight off your plate from having to build a proper sales team and staff it and get it to the point where it's managed by proper sales management. Yeah, there's a little bit of cons in the short term that burden you from a time perspective on that investment that's required to build a proper sales team and management in the short term before you have proper sales management. But the money differences are so substantial between the turds that are gonna fuck your business and the A players out there that you need to find, recruit, hire, retain, and staff onto your fucking business in order to make tremendously greater amounts of money as a result. Don't get burned by the shit sales agencies. They'll always tell you, oh yeah, we have sales management. Dog, that sales manager's working on like fucking 20 accounts at the same time. They don't give a fuck about your account. No single human out there is running a sales team, 20 different teams at the same time and doing it well. It's not how it works. You need one single sales manager dedicated to your account, or at most that sales manager's time on like 2 accounts. If they're doing that, yeah, it could be good, okay? But make sure they're actually good, because that's what makes a big difference to the performance. Okay, show rate being influenced by the salespeople, and again, your marketer is influencing the show rate through the hammer them strategy, proper sales management being in the business. All these things make huge performance ramification differences and impacts on what you do as a business, okay? I want to be very clear in saying the main thing that I started this video with that I really want to emphasize more than anything else is you have to do the math on what it takes in the first place to hit these 40 to 50 calls in a day. Do what I did here. Overshoot it, factor in all expenses, factor in lifetime value that comes in and what duration of time the lifetime value comes. Be exceptionally clear on the math. And if you struggle with literally any of this and you've watched a video up to this point and you want the help that you need in order to make more money and accomplish outcomes like this with the 40 to 50 calls per day, join into my Inner Circle program. Twice a month one-on-one calls, weekly group calls, quarterly masterminds right here at the Penthouse in Miami, Florida, a group chat full of rich people trying to get a hell of a lot richer. If you want your staff trained, put them through my Master Internet Marketing program. 7 weeks of 3 to 5 hour classes, homework libraries, worksheets. We also as an agency do consulting deals, hands-on deals where we can come in and do all this work ourselves. Although to be very clear, almost all of you sitting here watching this should be in my Inner Circle program rather than thinking that we're gonna come in as an agency. We have very strict limitations because I'm very involved on the agency side to do things hands-on. There's generally, for the most part, a lot of stuff that needs built out before we can even come in and do anything as an agency. 9.5 times out of 10, we're pushing you towards the Inner Circle if you come through our agency application. I'd rather you go through the Inner Circle first, have everything built out, get positioned, to then have a chance to work with our marketing agency if we deem it as something that is an account we want to take on. Work with a very limited quantity account, about 15 max. We generally sit somewhere between like 10 and 12, okay? We're looking for the deals that can pay us as a marketing agency upwards of 100K a month through a rev share relationship. I just want to be exceptionally clear again, just because, yeah, I'm an absolute A-player unit of a marketer out here, and I'm sure that I'm your dream agency owner or marketer that can come in and work on behalf of your business. You generally don't need to pay us as much as what you otherwise would if we came in and did that. And you could benefit a lot more from training up in-house staff and having us be responsible for them through the Inner Circle program or through one of our course offers in comparison. So I'd really push you and bias towards that. The link for the Inner Circle, the link for the Master Internet Marketing program, and the link for the agency application are all in the the description. I'd encourage you to check those out. If you made it this far, thank you so much for being here. I'd appreciate you subscribing to the channel. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much. You already know that we're dropping value here about hitting $1 million months. Go check out some of my other videos and check out our new blog, jeremyhaynes.com, where we turn all the videos like this into nice long form content that you can digest in a written form rather than through the videos themselves. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Go get richer.